find 5 things in the room that you can see. Name them in your head. Okay? Once you found the 5 things that you can see, I want you guys to find 4 things that you can physically feel with your body. After that, find 3 things that you can hear around you. After that, find 2 things that you can smell around you. That might be difficult. Finally, find 1 thing that you can taste. And that's it. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is a grounding technique. It allows you to break the pattern of thought and bring you into the present moment, right? We mentioned before that coming into the present moment is when you bring your mind back into your body. Best way to do so is to connect with your physical body using the 5 senses, right? 5 things you see, 4 things you feel, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, and 1 thing you can taste, okay? And that's that. Okay, so now we are on to the lecture piece. So, here's the lecture for today. Again, I think this piece is like a continued conversation about Buddhism, life, and like just successful applications, okay? So every single time I'm like learning and reading, I just get super excited about this stuff, because the more I read into it, the more I realize, oh my gosh, the Buddha was right in so many ways all the time, right? And so let's start off this thing. Okay. So there are 3 types of people in life, right? When it comes to beliefs, anyway. 3 types of people. First type are people who have no beliefs about anything, right? That's true. You find those people. They don't have a religion, they don't believe in anything. They're like, whatever, I'll go with the flow, right? That's A. Second type of people, they have strong beliefs and they hold on to it really tightly. And then the third type of person has strong beliefs, but those strong beliefs are loosely held, okay? And it's very interesting, like within Buddhism, there's so many contradictions, so many nuances that you had to read into, right? And so this is why we had to sit here to help us like be able to arrive at that understanding and decipher for ourselves. But let's talk about just the very last type, which is the type that the Buddha tries to emphasize, which is for you to have strong beliefs that are loosely held. What does that mean? It basically means this, right? If you want to walk the middle path, which is exactly what the Buddha emphasizes, you need to have conviction in life. You need to strive towards going somewhere. After all, we do live in society. You cannot simply exist and not do anything within society. Otherwise, you won't have a job, you won't have a house, you won't have a car, you won't have all those things that like are necessary to function in society, right? So you need to have convictions. You need to be striving for something. But the piece where it says strong beliefs loosely held is referring to this, which is at any given moment, you have to be prepared to simply let it go. And this is the path of Buddhism, right? Because after all, within Buddhism, 2 main tenets, nothing is permanent and everything is temporary. You don't have to, if you don't subscribe to that, like there's physical evidence that says it, right? Nothing is permanent and everything is temporary, right? In this case right here, if you truly understand that, then you're able to let go at any given moment to any thing, person, concepts, routines, ideas, etc., right? Because at the end of the day, even ourselves, our physical bodies, our physical identity, it's gonna go. And there was a question, which is very interesting. One time I had to tell kids these things because I work in a high school. And I asked them this question, which is like, okay, how many of you guys know your grandparents? They all said, yeah, they know their grandparents, right? But then I asked them this question, which is, how many of you guys know your grandparents' parents, right? Not a single one. And the problem is this, right? If we care about like every single little thing that is said to each other, like the drama or whatever, right? After like 2 or 3 lifetimes, those generations of people disappear from our memories anyway. So why hold on to something that's going to eventually disappear? How many of us here know our grandparents' parents? Know anything about them? Their life history, their tendencies, what they liked and disliked? At the end of the day, no one cares. And so the challenge becomes, why hold on to this idea so tightly when things are temporary, right? And so this idea of having strong beliefs loosely held directly contradicts against the second idea of the second type of people, which is the opposite, which is having strongly held beliefs and then never being able to let it go, okay? Strongly being attached to anything and never being able to let it go. Because what do you think those people go through? I'll tell you what they go through. I'll tell you what they think they go through, and I'll tell you what they go through, okay? What they think they go through is being firm, being rock solid, having integrity, and being congruent. But what they really go through is needless suffering, which is precisely what the Buddha is saying. Life is suffering, but part of it is that people are holding on to strong beliefs so much and they cannot let it go. Hence, the other part of the Buddhist philosophy is learning how to let go. Like all these conversations is really a challenge to that, okay? And then, of course, and then let me transition to this piece right here, right? Which is, when you find out some fun fact, right? And you find out that you're wrong about it, right? The question is, what's your reaction when you find out that, something that you used to know, used to think deeply about, is completely wrong? Ask yourself that question, right? And I'll get to that in a second, towards the tail end of these things. But the question is, when I tell you a fun fact, right? And you're like, whoa, I didn't know that fun fact. Is your response, oh, this is kind of cool, I did not know that? Or is your response, oh, no, I'm right. What is this silly fun fact, right? Oh, interesting. This flower just dropped off of the flower thing. Proof that everything is temporary, right? Nothing is permanent. And so the people who have strong beliefs and hold on to it too much, so much, right? Their reaction is very often fight or flight. They get extremely, extremely defensive about it. And, and one obvious example is this, right? One obvious example would be something like this. Let's just say you think like you're amazing. You're an amazing student. You're an amazing blah, 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 right? And then you submit an essay to your teacher, professor, and they give you like a C+, B-, right? Something like that. That's not congruent with your own worldview, and you're given new information. Think about the amount of suffering that kid goes through when he or she's given this, or you guys are given this information. It's like, actually, you're not all that. You're a C+, B- type of scholar in terms of essay writing, right? So, if you truly believe that you're still the best, then you're gonna go through a lot of suffering. But if you believe you're the best, but you kind of loosely hold on to the idea, then you can say, okay, let me see why I'm a B plus C minus scholar. And then we can work on it, right? So here's the big idea. Let me pause very quickly. It's okay. Ai mấy câu để mấy đứa nhỏ nghe được cái này. Okay. Try your best. Well, I'm not upset about it. I just can't tolerate it. And that's the difference, right? Okay. Every time you encounter new information, right, you always have a choice. You can say, wow, this is really interesting information. Especially if it's judgment about you, right? If somebody walks up to you and says like, oh, your sense of fashion sucks, right? All of a sudden that's judgment about you. By the way, let me pause this very quickly. If you feel agitated, disrupted, whatever, don't, right? Part of Buddhism is acceptance. Strong beliefs loosely held. Strong beliefs loosely held, right? Think about it. If you're agitated, who's the one suffering? Right? The ability to adapt, now that is interesting. But at the same time, I will address her. Go on. Để con mấy đứa nghe được nói. Dạ cảm ơn. Okay. So that's that. So, like I said, if you get new information, you could treat it as very interesting and be curious about why are you receiving this type of information? Why is this new information challenging what you already know, right? That's A. But then again, that's one type of response. What's the other type of response? And the other type of response is worth exploring because it's more natural, okay? The other type of response is your desire to suppress the new information that you're given and be in denial and stand your ground, right? And then you basically assume like a preaching stance. You say, nope, I'm right because of this, because of X, Y, and Z. And you begin persecuting either the information that you're given or attacking the person delivering your information. So, let's return back to the example that I mentioned before, which is the professor. You write an essay, you submit it, you think, hey, I'm a great student, I'm an A+ student. You get an essay back that says you're a C+ B- student. Guess what the natural tendency is, especially if you still believe that you're the A+ student? You're gonna get defensive. You're gonna start attacking two things, right? You're gonna start attacking the reasons why you got a C+ or a B-, that's A. Then you're gonna start attacking the teacher or the professor. He or she didn't teach it right. He or she didn't set the expectation right. In both instances, what are you not doing? You're not reflecting on yourself. Why did I get that C+? How could I have improved, right? And so ultimately, you kind of want to operate not as a preacher who says like, no, my beliefs are it. Or not as a prosecutor saying, you're wrong, You want to operate like a scientist. You want to approach it and ask, oh, and why did I name scientists? What does a scientist do, right? What is a scientist committed to doing? They're committed to actually searching for the truth, right? And they look at the data. They don't care about beliefs. Like you could say, I can't think of any scientific fact right now, but okay, let's just say Tylenol helps alleviate headache, right? Let's just say you're staunchly like anti-vax, anti-whatever, right? And you don't believe in it. But then, does a scientist care about your beliefs? No. They'll look at the control group, they'll look at the experimental group, and if the experimental group improved after taking Tylenol, then they don't really care, right? It's not about beliefs. They really care about and they're committed to finding the truth. So whenever you are receiving information that's contrary to what you know, operate like a scientist. Ask yourself, is there any truth in that matter, right? Or what they're trying to say. And this is precisely why Buddhism jives so much with science. Because at the core of Buddhism is all about the search for the truth. And there has to be some alignment because it's not necessarily about belief necessarily. It is and it isn't, right? If anything that challenges Buddhism, there's nothing of modern science that challenges Buddhism. And that's when you know, oh snap, Buddhism is to some extent on the right path. Whereas with other beliefs, right, they're talking about all these things that to some extent cannot be confirmed. And you're like, okay, we know that it's not necessarily, we don't know whether it's true or not, but you still have dogmatic. You still are holding onto these beliefs so firmly, even though you don't know it's true. So now, what are you operating as? As a preacher or as a prosecutor, right? Think about other people with other beliefs, right? If you even challenge them to challenge their thoughts on it, how do they respond? Usually it's, oh, you don't believe in this? You're going to hell. Okay, that's preaching, right? Or, oh, you don't believe in this? Something's wrong with you. Like, you're not faithful, right? So they attack rather than inquire, right? So that's just like really think about this. And that's what Buddhism is. Challenge thought, that's A, and challenge yourself. It's ultimately an activity in self-exploration, okay? So let me transition that into this idea, which is, and this is, I like these discussions because it's like larger discussions about life, right? Here's the deal. The faster that you guys are able to recognize, to some extent, how wrong you are, the feedback that you're given, right? Especially if it's feedback that's different from your original belief, the faster you move towards being right. Does that make sense? Think about this as thinking back to the analogy. The kid who receives the C+ on the essay, if he says, okay, let me figure out why I'm getting a C+, and let me fix that, all of a sudden they're going to be moving towards becoming that A student. Whereas if that C+ essay, the kid receives it and be like, nah, man, this professor don't know what he's doing. Guess what happens the next time he's submitting an essay? He's going to get a C+ again because he refuses to adjust his ways, right? And so ultimately, the person who's receptive to feedback has a growth mindset. You've heard this before, but it's interesting because this type of thing is not named within Buddhism. And yet it's so relevant. Buddhism 2,500 years ago is speaking to this fact. The difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. The people who has the highest trajectory in life have a growth mindset. What allows you to have a growth mindset though? Your ability to detach. Your ability to let go. This is huge. Think about what Buddhism is, right? Think about what it means to be Zen. Nothing can bother you. You're able to let go of everything. And ultimately, the last level of Buddhism, you let go of Buddhism. Well, that's a paradox that, eventually you're going to have to keep sitting tight and you'll understand what we're talking about, right? But I want to talk about two things that's relevant to today, which is two levels of detachment for you guys to entertain, right? It might not sink in now, but it will sink in eventually. Betally, the more life experience you have, the more you'll understand, okay? Two levels of detachment. One, detachment from your past, yes. Detachment of your present from your past. Who you are from the past versus who you are now. That's A. That's the first level of detachment. And then the second level of detachment is your opinions from your identity. And I'm going to go into both, okay? So let's talk about the first thing. Detachment from your present and your past. Okay. Who you were is completely relevant and irrelevant to who you are now. Really fascinating, okay? Because And Buddhism loves to operate in paradoxes, but let's talk about it. Everything that you've done in the past has led you to be in this room right now. Literally. Even if you made a decision yesterday to come to temple today, that's who you were in the past that's brought you right here. So it's completely relevant. And even your, what you did when you were 5, everything, your trajectory, whatever, has brought you here right now into this present moment. So it's completely relevant. But it's completely irrelevant where you go from here, from this 10:42 a.m. And so that's two sides of the same coin that you have to understand, right? Everything that you've done brought you here, but moving forward, none of that matters. And so that involves a certain level of detachment. Your childhood defines you, but it doesn't define your future. It defines your present, but then you have a choice to make in your present moment. You could either hold on to it and be like, okay, this was my childhood, therefore I'm this forever. Or you could be like, okay, I understand that was my childhood. Now I'm going to make a choice, right, on where I'm going. Oftentimes people with, ready for this, victim mindsets are holding on so tightly to what their past has done to them that it kind of inhibits them from creating a future for themselves, right? Whatever tragedy that you've ever gone through in life, I'm not going to say I don't want to say it's great, but it's brought you here. And it's brought you here for a reason. But you cannot let it dictate your future, right? And so a lot of the thrust of this is saying, let go of that. We're here, be present. And with this power and knowledge and awareness of being in the present moment, when you fully let go, all of a sudden, the future is so much brighter. You have so much more potential to go forward, okay? So now, and the tagline is this, right? You have complete autonomy to define your future. Never forget that. Never be a victim of your past, right? That's it. Okay. Okay. And the last thing is this, right? If you are, because this talk is not hitting, right? Think about it like this. You have a fixed mindset because you still believe that your past haunts you. And you're not necessarily walking a middle path. And because you're so attached to that, you're still ultimately suffering. If you want to find the end of suffering, it's about understanding and really truly seeing what you can let go of, okay? So that's the first type of detachment. Here's the second type of detachment, okay? Which is separating your opinions from your identity. Now, some of us in this room has gone through this exercise. It's worth going through this exercise again with new people in the room. All right? Close your eyes. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Ready? And you're going to answer them mentally. Close your eyes. Every single one of you. Ready? Question number 1. Who are you? Answer that question. Question number 2. Who are you? Give me a different answer to the first answer. Question number 3. Who are you? Give me a different answer. Question number 4. Who are you? Question number 5. Who are you? Question number 6. Who are you? 7. Who are you? 8. Who are you? And 9 and 10. Who are you? All right, open up your eyes, okay? Here's the deal. First couple answers, I can guarantee you, were demographic answers. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a whatever. I'm Asian, I'm whatever. Male, female. I'm 38, something like that. May not be true about me though. Maybe, who knows? But after those first couple answers with the demographics, you peel back those layers, and all of a sudden, you start naming your identity. You start naming your job. You start naming your position in life. And then you start naming your beliefs in life, right? So the next part of detachment is challenging you to say this, right? Which is separating your opinions from your identity, your beliefs from your identity. Because we are ultimately an onion that has been built over time by society. Everything that you know or everything that you are right now has been informed by what society has taught you over time. You're getting that, right? But when we peel it off, who are you at the very center? Who are you at the very center when we strip away your beliefs, strip away from your opinions, and take away the demographics? Is there anything in the center, or is it completely empty? That's a question that Buddhism likes to explore, right? But here's the thing, and here's the piece that's talking about detachment, which is this. Over time, your opinions become so part of you, so part of your identity, right? And oftentimes, when you hear counter information to that, it becomes hostile to your ego. And you're willing to fight it and challenge it and counter it, right? And you do two things. You either vilify the opponent, or you close your mind to learning, and you don't care, right? So the second half, learning to detach your opinions from your beliefs from your ego, is basically saying, walk the middle path, try not to have strong beliefs, but hold on to them very loosely. Strong beliefs loosely held. Because ultimately, if you have strong beliefs and you hold on for it to too much, you'll encounter a lot of suffering in life, okay? And here's my final conclusion, which is interesting. So, I work at a high school, right? And I have to interview other teachers to come and teach. One of my favorite questions I like to ask them is this. Name a strongly held belief that you have of life. It could be serious, it could be not, right? That's my first question. And they usually name me something. And I'll tell you what two people have named me. The first interview candidate said, I believe curiosity is the secret to life. You want to be curious about everything. Great. The other person said, I believe family is the most important thing in life. Great. Two strongly held beliefs. But I actually have a second follow-up question to that. And this follow-up question is very telling about the future teacher that's going to be in the classroom. My second question that I ask is this. What if I challenged you and told you you were completely wrong about your idea, about your strongly held belief? How would you respond? So the first person who said, curiosity is the best thing in life, I said, what if I told you were wrong? And he said, I would be curious to understand why you said that curiosity is not it. And then the second question, who said, family is the most important thing, and I said, what if I told you family is not the most important thing in life? He said, I would challenge your argument, and I don't think you're right, because I'm right. Wow. You could already tell between the two candidates who's going to experience the most growth in the classroom, right? The one who's walking that middle path, the one that says, okay, I know I believe in this, but I also know at the same time I'm willing to hear the other side. I'm not closed to thinking. I'm not closing my mind, my thoughts, and my energy, right? And so, with that said, I think the big conclusion is this, right? There's so much applications about of Buddhism and life together, right? So many modern concepts that Buddhism has spoken about but didn't quite name. And so this is the connection, right? This is the big connection, and I hope you guys understand that there's a lot of nuance, but there's a lot of beauty in this. And so you keep sticking with this and keep trying to learn, you'll arrive there someday, right? But again, the best, if you want the end of suffering, walk the middle path. Because the middle path allows you to hold on to things while simultaneously letting go of it at any given moment. And that is Buddhism in a nutshell. Okay, thank you guys.